4 really creepy true coincidence horror stories. Well, I know what the word coincidence means. It's like along the lines of irony in a way, but not exactly. But I don't know what to think about this, so we just gonna have to dive right into it. What's up, TBS crew? It's your boy Steph back with another reaction. This time we have Nightmare Files. 4 really creepy true coincidence horror stories, real experiences, uploaded June 28th, 2019. Now down in the description will be a link to Nightmare Files channel, a link to this original video so y'all can see it for yourselves without my commentary. Also, it'll be links to all of my social medias. Get at your boy and see the personal life that I don't upload to YouTube. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Nightmare Files.
Now, I'm already anticipating that loud-ass, scary-ass sound effect at the end of each story. It still gets me a little bit inside every time I hear it.
About 10 to 12 years ago, I was a drug addict living in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
I usually spent my days smoking, drinking, and I was usually up to no good.
Bum-ass motherfucker.
I would go with whoever had the drugs, basically. One day, my friend and I were talking with this guy, and he said he had some dope on him, and he invited us to his house. It wasn't the first time I've seen him invite women over to his house to smoke and do other drugs. He seemed nice, but I didn't feel comfortable going with him, but I was.
Wow.
Then I saw another friend across the street, so I went over there to her. After that, I went home, and my friend went with him. The next day, his house was surrounded by police and news cameras. I didn't know why, but my friend ended up telling me that when they were in his house, this guy, Anthony, punched her in the back of her head and started to choke her. Then she woke up in a bed. She said next to the bed, she saw a woman's body with no head attached.
Oh, wow.
But she decided not to scream because he was asleep right next to her.
Ooh.
She ended up crawling and getting out of the house. Literally running out of the house, barely clothed. And ended up calling the police. Eventually, they found 11 bodies of 11 different women in and around his house.
How?
Who would have known that man was a serial killer? His name was Anthony Sowell. I'm so glad that my other friend caught my attention right before I was going to his house. Who knows? I could have been one of those bodies.
He looked like a murderer.
What happened in this house behind me is simply a nightmare. And there are a lot of deeply disturbing questions for authorities here. There were 6 bodies found in this house last week. This morning, we know there are more.
We discovered 4 additional, what we believe to be 4 bodies.
Police believe that they were murdered by this man, Anthony Sowell, a convicted rapist who had been living in the house.
It appears that this man had a insatiable appetite that he had to fill.
5 of the bodies have been identified as women. Police say they were strangled.
I didn't feel safe. There's something telling me don't go in this house.
One woman says she narrowly avoided being a victim.
Them Crown
He
Vics.
was in love with me, how he wanted me to go up to his house and drink with him.
Sowell was a registered sex offender. This tragedy raises
Crown
questions
Vic.
about how closely he had been monitored by police.
Probation and parole is not really set up to be a law enforcement outfit. They're not set up to do the type of surveillance and supervision that might catch somebody like this guy.
The search of this house will continue. Chris, there could be still more bodies here. Pierre, thank you. Thank you for reporting.
Oh, no scary sound effect? I'm not gonna let my guard down just yet. That's just one story.
This happened to me in the 1970s. To be exact, it was November 23rd, 1971. I was 20 years old at the time and was really down on my luck.
3 days after my
I was
birthday.
living
What's
in
up?
Portland, but I'm from Seattle, and I'll be going home very soon.
November 20th, Scorpio. What's up?
I had lost my job and was about to be evicted from my apartment because I couldn't pay the rent.
Oh, bad.
I will be be flying back home to stay with my parents until I could find a new job or somehow get the money for my apartment, which would be very unlikely. I had one night left in my apartment before leaving. I didn't feel like staying home, so I decided to go for a walk and have a drink in a bar. On my way to the bar, I stopped at a convenience store and purchased a lottery ticket. I walked down the street and entered a nearby bar, where I ordered myself a beer. Not long after that, a man came inside and sat next to me and ordered a drink. We got to talking about life and just general conversation when he mentioned he was going to a flight the next day to Seattle. I laughed and asked him, "Wait, flight 305? He laughed and said, "Yeah, that's the one." He asked me why I was heading there. I told him I had money troubles, and coincidentally, he said the same thing. He seemed like a nice guy. We talked for about another hour before he decided to call it a night. Unfortunately, I never caught his name. I was about to leave the bar myself shortly after that when I heard over the TV that the lottery numbers would be announced. I decided to stay and check if I had won. Why not? And would you believe it? I won $15,000. Of course, I was beyond belief with shock. And of course, I wouldn't need to go back home because I had money now.
To come up.
The next day, I saw something on the news that a flight had been hijacked and the plane was being held at ransom.
305.
It was the same flight I was going to be on. And I couldn't believe it, but the sketch of the guy they described who took the flight hostage was the exact same man I had been talking to in the bar. He used the name D.B. Cooper. If you didn't know, he threatened to explode the plane with a bomb unless he got $200,000, which he did, then jumped out of the plane with the money and parachute.
Oh, wow.
And was never seen again. I didn't know why, but I never said anything to anyone. Even if I could, it's not like I knew his real name. It was such a scary coincidence that the only thing that stopped me was the reason why I was in that predicament anyway. I needed money, and then I got some. It's strange how everything works out in life.
When he got on a plane in Portland, Oregon last night, he was just another passenger. Today, after hijacking a Northwest Airlines jet, ransoming the passengers in Seattle, then making a getaway by parachute somewhere between there and Reno, Nevada, the description on one wire service, master criminal. Bill Curtis reports.
36 passengers got off the jetliner in Seattle last night. Left aboard 4 crew members and the hijacker, dressed in a business suit demanding $200,000 and carrying a plain briefcase which he told the crew held explosives. With the full ransom collected from Seattle banks and 4 parachutes aboard, the plane headed for Reno.
Okay, now I'm starting to understand the concept of these coincidence horror stories. Okay.
I'm 33 years old, and I was born and raised in Austin, Texas. A few years ago, I started to take an interest in firearms because my friend introduced me.
Oh, you one of them.
I started to practice at a firing range. I'm very close to my grandpa and would visit him often and tell him what's been going on. And I mentioned him that I had started to use firearms as a hobby. I know my grandpa doesn't approve of weapons, and I'm not really sure why. That was until he told me a story that same day. It was in 1966. My grandpa was about 20 and lived with his mother, father, and older brother named Dale in Austin, Texas. Dale had an interest in firearms and would often shoot empty cans and glass bottles in the backyard. My grandpa's father was a big enthusiast of weapons, so naturally he enjoyed Dale taking a liking to him. Like I said, my grandfather wasn't a fan of weapons and always tried to tell Dale to stop using them. But I think my grandpa's resentment of guns came from his dad being hard on him about them. It was August 1st of that same year. My grandpa decided a few days prior that he was going to hold a small protest in his local university, the University of Texas. My grandpa got in his car to drive to the university at around 11:20 a.m. Just as he was about to start his car, he heard a gunshot, followed by his mother screaming. My grandpa got out of his car and ran back inside the house. There had been an incident. Dale had accidentally shot himself in the leg with his gun.
Wow.
They got in the car and drove to the hospital as fast as they could. They ended up staying there for about 2 hours. And while they were there waiting to see if Dale would be okay, more and more young people were being rushed in for gunshot wounds as well. My grandpa found out later that day that a man who was called Charles Whitman went on the 28th floor of the university tower and opened fire with a hunting rifle. He killed 16 people and injured many more. It's strange because as much as my grandfather, he hated guns, it was because his brother Dale, who got shot, that might have saved his life from getting murdered by Charles in that tower. And the fact that he was about to protest about the use of firearms is just creepy. It's a creepy coincidence, honestly. It's a weird story, and after hearing it, I have to say, I have reconsidered about getting into the firearms hobby. For the record, Dale died the next day from his injuries.
What?
And the human rampage.
It must have hit an artery.
Terror across the University of Texas campus. 24-year-old student Charles Whitman goes berserk, shooting from the top of the 28-story tower. Victims are hit at the rate of 1 every 3 minutes. Men, women, children, all are targets. The crazed sniper sends bodies crumpling to the ground everywhere for over an hour. Finally, Whitman is shot dead by Austin police. One afternoon's tragic total, 16 dead, 33 wounded.
Oh man, I'm not crazy about guns either, but I will protect myself.
This is a story that didn't happen to me. It happened to my dad. It's not a scary story about a creepy encounter with someone or anything paranormal. It's more of a close call kind of story. Anyway, in 2001, he was working for a big company, a good paying job. I'm not sure how long he worked there since I was 3 years old at the time.
It be like that.
He got laid off on September 9th, 2001.
It be like that.
2 days before 9/11. On the morning of 9/11, he's still asleep and gets a call from my grandfather saying, "Those raghead terrorists, I'm going to kill all of them." He asked him why the hell he was yelling and cussing into the phone at 8 a.m. My grandfather tells him to turn on the TV and check out the news. Well, you know the rest. 2 planes crashed into the World Trade Center. This part I actually remember seeing on TV. Of course, being 3 years old, I had no idea what was going on. Now here's some creepy stuff for the story. After the towers collapsed, my dad gets a call from his boss. He asked him, "James, what the hell just happened?" There was a loud explosion, and everyone started freaking out. I'm still in the tower, and it's really dark in here. My dad tells him the towers are gone. They collapsed. I'm not really sure how their conversation went after this, but eventually his boss's phone cut off. He somehow survived the collapse by being trapped in an air bubble or something like that, I don't know. He got trapped under all the debris and was stuck in the air bubble. No idea how he got signal on his phone underneath all of that. His body was never found.
Wow.
Now the main reason I'm sharing this story is because a few years ago, my dad told me something that is chilling to think about. Right before he was laid off, he was scheduled to go to a meeting with his boss and some other people he worked with.
On 9/11.
The meeting took place on the 72nd floor of the North Tower. It was supposed to start exactly at 8 a.m. Coincidence or not, this is creepy. I'm glad he never went to go to that meeting. I only have a few early childhood memories from 2001, so I almost grew up without a father. Now it's just something our family talks about every now and then.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. CNN Center right now is just beginning to work on this story, obviously calling our sources and trying to figure out exactly what happened, but clearly something relatively devastating happening this morning there, the south end of the island of Manhattan. That is, once again, a picture of one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
Wow. Wow. That last story was like one of the only times in history where it was good to be unemployed. But yes, it took me a while, but I finally caught on to the concept of the whole coincidence horror story topic. It was basically like a situation happened that you coincidentally avoided by doing something else or not doing anything at all. You know, if that makes sense. That's the gist of the video. And man, that's crazy. That 9/11 stuff, man. That's always a touchy subject to talk about and bring up in conversation. But that run deep. Again, R.I.P. to everyone who passed away, and a big thanks to all the first responders and all the civilians, everyone who helped clean up the mess. Thank you so much, guys, for watching the video. If you enjoyed the reaction, leave a like, a comment, and share the video. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel and tap that bell icon so you will get notified every time your boy Steph drop new content, which I do 7 times a week. That is all I got for y'all this time around. Your boy Steph is out.